When most people hear the phrase Mamba mentality, they immediately think of greatness, success, and a mindset that can take you to the very top of your field. Kobe Bryant made it famous, and athletes, entrepreneurs, and everyday people still use it as inspiration to this day. But here's the truth that often gets ignored. The very same mindset that can make you legendary can also break you down if you don't understand the darker side of it. In this video, we're going to dive deep into the dark truth about the Mamba mentality, what it really takes, what it really costs, and how you can apply it without burning yourself out. And make sure you stay until the end, because I'll give you a full workout you can use to channel the Mamba mentality in a healthy, productive way. Kobe Bryant defined the Mamba mentality as the constant pursuit of being the best version of yourself. On the surface, that sounds like the ultimate motivational phrase, something we can all buy into without hesitation. Who doesn't want to wake up every day and become a better version of themselves? But this is exactly where the myth clashes with reality. People see Kobe's highlight reels, his championship celebrations, his iconic buzzer beaters, and they assume that adopting the Mamba mentality is just about working harder than everyone else. They think, if I just wake up earlier, train more hours, and grind nonstop, I'll succeed like he did. The problem is that very few people truly understand what that demand looks like in practice. Kobe wasn't just waking up at 4 a.m. for workouts, he was doing it consistently for years, while managing the pressure of carrying the Los Angeles Lakers franchise, dealing with the media spotlight, and preparing his body to handle 82 regular season games plus grueling playoff runs. That level of commitment required him to sacrifice more than most people would ever consider giving up. Sleep wasn't a priority, family time was often cut short, and his long-term physical health was constantly put at risk. Kobe himself admitted to playing through injuries that would have sidelined almost any other player. Sprained ankles, torn ligaments, broken fingers. He adjusted his shooting form mid-season to compensate for injuries rather than sit out. That's not just dedication, it's obsession. And this is the reality most people overlook. When you idolize Kobe's work ethic without fully understanding the cost, you only see half the picture. The myth of the Mamba mentality makes it seem like sheer hard work alone guarantees success. The reality is that Kobe paired that hard work with extreme discipline, tactical preparation, and an almost unhealthy level of sacrifice. Without those sacrifices, he wouldn't have become Kobe Bryant, the 5-time champion. But those same sacrifices also left him with a body that was falling apart by the time he retired. Consider the Achilles tear he suffered in 2013. Most players would have immediately headed to the locker room, season over. Kobe? He stayed in the game, walked to the free throw line, and knocked down 2 clutch free throws before hobbling off the court. That moment has been replayed countless times as an example of his toughness. But it's also a perfect illustration of the dark side of the Mamba mentality. The willingness to put everything, including your future health, on the line for the sake of competition. For Kobe, the mentality demanded that he had to keep going. Stopping wasn't an option, even if it meant he might never be the same again. Now, this doesn't just apply to Kobe. Many athletes, and even people outside of sports, misinterpret the Mamba mentality as nothing more than work until you drop. Cristiano Ronaldo, for example, is known for his extreme fitness regimen, skipping vacations and social events to train. Tom Brady famously sacrificed aspects of his personal life to extend his NFL career into his 40s. Serena Williams has fought through injuries and personal struggles to remain at the top of tennis. The pattern is clear. The myth makes it look like these athletes simply chose hard work and achieved greatness. The reality is that every one of them dealt with hidden sacrifices, physical pain, and personal costs that aren't captured in highlight reels or motivational quotes. What most fans don't realize is that the Mamba mentality also takes a toll on mental health. The drive to constantly improve sounds positive, but it can quickly turn into never feeling satisfied. Kobe himself admitted that even after winning championships, he wasn't fully happy because his mind was already on the next one. Imagine achieving something most people only dream about, an NBA title, and still feeling restless, still feeling like you haven't done enough. That's the double-edged sword of this mentality. It pushes you to heights few people can imagine, but it also keeps moving the finish line further and further away. For some, that creates relentless motivation. For others, it leads to anxiety, self-doubt, and the feeling that nothing is ever enough. And here's where the reality gets even darker. Many young players and fans try to emulate Kobe without understanding that his context was different. He had access to world-class trainers, recovery specialists, nutritionists, and doctors who could help him manage the strain he put on his body. Most people don't. If a high school or college player tries to replicate Kobe's workload, multiple workouts a day, pushing through pain, sacrificing sleep, the result isn't going to be an NBA career. The result is often injury, burnout, or complete exhaustion before they even get started. The myth tells you to copy Kobe's grind. The reality says you need to adapt the mentality to your own circumstances, or it will crush you. Another overlooked part of the reality is that Kobe's greatness wasn't built on hard work alone. Yes, he trained obsessively, but he also studied film for hours, breaking down his opponent's tendencies and analyzing every detail of his own game. He sought mentorship from legends like Michael Jordan, and he drew inspiration from disciplines outside of basketball, studying soccer players' footwork or martial artists' discipline. The myth tells you just outwork everyone. The reality is that Kobe was just as much a student of the game as he was a grinder in the gym. His edge came from preparation and intelligence, not only sweat. The Mamba mentality isn't just about discipline, it's about obsession. Kobe Bryant wasn't satisfied with simply being great. He wanted to be the greatest. That subtle difference is important because greatness requires consistent effort, but pursuing the greatest requires something far more dangerous: sacrifice to the point of self-destruction. Kobe's obsession meant he was relentless in ways that separated him from nearly every other player. He tore his Achilles and still walked to the free throw line. He broke fingers, sprained ankles, and battled through injuries that would have sidelined others for weeks. But instead of resting, he found ways to adapt his game to his physical limitations, refusing to slow down. Those moments made him legendary, but they also left his body battered by the time he retired. What we have to understand is that obsession has two sides. On one hand, it's what allowed Kobe to build his legacy, to rise above players with equal or even greater natural talent. On the other hand, obsession can quickly push anyone into a place where the line between dedication and destruction is erased. For most athletes, or anyone chasing success, copying Kobe's exact approach isn't just unrealistic, it's dangerous. You're likely to end up with chronic injuries, burnout, or mental exhaustion long before you see meaningful results. Kobe himself once described his schedule in what became known as the 6-6-6 plan. 6 hours of training per day, 6 days per week, for 6 months straight. That included 2 hours of basketball skills, 2 hours of weightlifting, and 2 hours of cardio or conditioning. Very few people on Earth can maintain that type of schedule, and even fewer can sustain it without breaking down physically or mentally. Yet for Kobe, that level of obsession was normal. It wasn't something he did for a short burst of motivation. It was how he lived his life for decades. He saw it as the only way to separate himself from the competition. Obsession like that often comes with collateral damage. His family life suffered in his early years, as he himself admitted. His body endured injuries that required surgeries, months of rehab, and constant pain management. Even when he returned from those injuries, his minutes on the floor were pushing him to the edge. By the end of his career, Kobe had logged over 57,000 combined minutes of regular season and playoff basketball, not counting practice hours that dwarfed game time. That amount of wear and tear isn't sustainable, and most players who tried to copy him ended up breaking down far earlier. And the cost wasn't only physical, it was also mental. Obsession demands tunnel vision. Kobe had to isolate himself from distractions, maintain an uncompromising standard, and constantly push himself into uncomfortable territory. That kind of mindset builds legends, but it can also create an unhealthy relationship with success. For Kobe, winning wasn't just the goal, it was the only acceptable outcome. He once said he couldn't relate to people who didn't obsess over their craft the way he did. While that mindset fueled his greatness, it also meant he struggled to connect with teammates at times, especially early in his career. His obsession created friction in the locker room because his expectations were almost impossible for others to meet. This is where the lesson lies for everyone else. The Mamba mentality isn't about literally copying Kobe's schedule or mimicking his obsession. If you try to outwork everyone without boundaries, you'll eventually burn out. If you train through pain without listening to your body, you'll get injured. If you refuse to rest or find balance, you'll end up resenting the very thing you once loved. The essence of the Mamba mentality isn't the obsession itself, it's what Kobe did with that obsession. He used adversity, failure, and pain as fuel to sharpen his skills and strengthen his mindset. He didn't allow setbacks to end his pursuit. Instead, he reframed them as challenges to overcome. For most athletes, that injury signals the end of their career, especially in their mid-30s. But after the Achilles tear, Kobe attacked rehab with the same intensity he brought to the court. He studied the recovery process, leaned on medical staff, and pushed himself to return faster than expected. That's the core of the Mamba mentality. Not ignoring pain or pretending it doesn't exist, but facing it head-on and refusing to let it define you. Another overlooked part of Kobe's obsession was his ability to study. He wasn't just grinding physically, he was obsessed with learning the game. He'd watch hours of film, analyzing opponents' footwork, defensive schemes, and weaknesses. He studied legends like Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson, but also borrowed ideas from soccer players, track athletes, and martial artists. His obsession wasn't just about working more hours, it was about working smarter, digging into every possible detail to gain an edge. That's an aspect of his mentality anyone can apply without risking self-destruction. Ultimately, obsession is a double-edged sword. For Kobe, it built his empire, but also left scars, physically, mentally, and emotionally. For the rest of us, that obsession without balance will likely take more than it gives. But if you learn to channel it, to use pain and adversity as fuel without letting it consume you, then you capture the essence of what Kobe really meant. The core of Kobe Bryant's idea was simple but revolutionary. Don't compete with others, compete with yourself. Each day, the goal is to be just a little better than the day before. It sounds basic, but in practice, it flips the traditional idea of competition. Instead of obsessing over external validation, rankings, or comparisons, you focus on internal growth. That shift is what allowed Kobe to sustain his drive long after he had already won championships, MVPs, and Olympic gold medals. The trophies weren't the end goal. Becoming better than yesterday was. This approach is what separates average performers from those who sustain greatness over long careers. When you chase external rewards, motivation fades once you reach them. But when you compete with yourself, the process never ends. There's always room to refine a skill, sharpen a habit, or stretch your limits. That's why the Mamba mentality translates beyond sports into business, art, and everyday life. It's not about being the best in the world, it's about being the best version of yourself, no matter the field. Look at athletes like Cristiano Ronaldo. Even in his late 30s, he's known for training with the same intensity as a rookie, constantly reinventing his game to adapt to his body and to the demands of modern football. Serena Williams, for decades, paired natural talent with relentless preparation and the discipline to recover from setbacks, including serious injuries and time away from the sport. Tom Brady extended his NFL career into his 40s through obsessive preparation and diet, pushing the boundaries of what a quarterback could achieve at his age. Simone Biles, arguably the greatest gymnast of all time, continued to dominate despite the immense physical and mental demands of her sport by focusing on constant self-improvement and resilience. All of them represent the same principle Kobe lived by: relentless pursuit of mastery through daily growth. And this mindset isn't limited to sports. Off the court, we see the Mamba mentality in performers like Beyonce, who is known for exhaustive rehearsals, microscopic attention to detail, and the discipline to deliver flawless performances year after year.
Baby, I can see your halo. You know you're my saving grace.
Entrepreneurs like Elon Musk and Steve Jobs embody the same idea in a different way. Musk pushes himself and his teams through impossible deadlines, obsessing over innovation in multiple industries at once. Jobs was famous for his perfectionism, demanding excellence from himself and everyone around him until Apple products met his exact standards. Whether or not you agree with their methods, their results speak to the power of channeling this obsessive focus. Not everyone balances this mentality the same way. Some people thrive under relentless pressure, while others collapse. Kobe found energy in adversity, but not everyone wired themselves to handle the same demands. Ronaldo thrives on criticism and uses it as fuel. Biles, on the other hand, took a step back from competition at the Tokyo Olympics to protect her mental health, recognizing that pushing further would have been destructive. Both represent the Mamba mentality, but in different ways. One by charging forward, the other by knowing when to pause. That distinction is critical. This mentality is not a one-size-fits-all blueprint. If you misapply it, if you blindly try to outwork everyone without considering recovery, sustainability, or personal balance, it can take more from you than it gives. It can lead to burnout, chronic injuries, strained relationships, and even mental health struggles. Kobe himself learned this lesson over time. Early in his career, his obsession often isolated him. He clashed with teammates who couldn't match his intensity. Later, he matured and realized that leadership required more than just setting an impossible standard. It required lifting others up too. He grew into someone who not only embodied the mentality, but also taught others how to apply it without destroying themselves. That's where the real wisdom lies, understanding that the Mamba mentality is about balance. It's not about skipping sleep, neglecting relationships, or grinding yourself into the ground. It's about cultivating relentless focus while also knowing when to recover, when to adapt, and when to step back to protect your longevity. The people who succeed long-term with this philosophy are the ones who manage both sides, intensity and balance. For example, Brady wasn't just obsessed with training harder, he was obsessed with training smarter. He revolutionized his recovery process, focusing on pliability, diet, and sleep. Beyoncé doesn't just rehearse endlessly. She also controls her environment, builds strong support teams, and balances her artistry with preparation to avoid burnout. Biles set an example by showing that the Mamba mentality doesn't mean ignoring mental health. It means valuing it enough to step away so you can return stronger. These examples prove that the mentality isn't about endless suffering. It's about mastering the process in a way that sustains growth without collapse. Kobe Bryant's philosophy captured the imagination of people far outside the NBA because it represented something universal: the relentless pursuit of improvement, no matter the arena. A basketball player chasing a championship, a musician perfecting their craft, or a student grinding through late nights to earn a degree, all of them can see themselves reflected in Kobe's words. The Mamba mentality is about waking up every day and refusing to accept complacency. That's why it's become more than just a basketball mantra. It's become a cultural philosophy that people apply to nearly every aspect of their lives. Take teachers, for example. Many of them embody the Mamba mentality without even realizing it. They show up every morning, often underpaid and underappreciated, pouring energy into the next generation. They grade papers late at night, design lessons that will connect with kids who don't always want to learn, and push themselves to be better educators year after year. Yet just like with Kobe, the cost is real. Teacher burnout is one of the biggest challenges in education, with many leaving the profession not because they lack passion, but because their pursuit of excellence comes at the expense of their mental and physical health. Doctors and healthcare workers are another example. The pandemic showed the world what true relentlessness looks like. People working 12 to 16-hour shifts, sacrificing sleep, risking their own health, and carrying the emotional weight of life and death decisions every single day. On paper, this looks exactly like the Mamba mentality, pushing through pain, exhaustion, and fear to fulfill a bigger purpose. But the toll is enormous. Burnout among medical professionals has reached alarming levels, leading to depression, substance abuse, and even suicide in some cases. The mentality of just keep going can save lives, but it can also destroy the people who live by it if they don't balance it with recovery and support. Single parents might be the purest real-world example of the Mamba mentality. Imagine working multiple jobs to keep the lights on, coming home exhausted, and still finding the energy to help with homework, cook dinner, or be emotionally present for your kids. That requires the same kind of obsessive drive Kobe had, except without trainers, nutritionists, or millions of dollars in contracts to support the grind. It's a raw, unfiltered version of relentless commitment. These parents embody resilience and sacrifice on a daily basis. But again, the cost is heavy. Sleep deprivation, financial stress, and the erosion of personal identity are common. They live for others so fully that they often forget themselves. The human brain and body are not designed for unending stress without recovery. Athletes have off seasons, load management, and recovery protocols. things everyday people rarely get. A nurse can't just take 3 months off to rehab their burnout. A single parent can't afford to hire a full team to ease the workload. Without intentional rest and perspective, it becomes a slow path to exhaustion. So when you look at teachers, doctors, single parents, entrepreneurs, or artists, the lesson isn't that they should copy Kobe's extremes. It's that they should take the underlying principle of constant growth and apply it sustainably. At its core, the human side of the Mamba mentality is this: life will demand sacrifices, and the pursuit of greatness, whether in sports, work, or personal life, will always come with costs. The key is not ignoring those costs, but acknowledging them, preparing for them, and making sure they don't outweigh the rewards. Kobe's mentality resonates because it mirrors the struggles we all face: the fight against complacency, the temptation to settle, and the desire to become more than we were yesterday. But if you lose yourself in the grind and forget why you started, you risk ending up empty, even if you achieve everything you set out to do. So how do you use the Mamba mentality without falling into its darker traps? The answer above all lies in balance. As Kobe matured, especially after his retirement, he began to speak more about the importance of joy, purpose, and family. He realized that the Mamba mentality was not just about working harder, it was about working smarter. It was about identifying what truly matters and channeling your energy into it in a focused, sustainable way. He began to emphasize quality over quantity, intentionality over blind obsession. For example, he didn't stop training, but he adjusted how he trained, incorporating smarter recovery, nutrition, and strategic planning. He also expanded his focus beyond basketball, mentoring younger athletes, investing in storytelling, and building projects that aligned with his passions outside of sports. For anyone trying to adopt the Mamba mentality, this evolution holds a critical lesson. You can chase excellence without destroying yourself in the process. The first step is understanding why you are pushing yourself. Is your drive fueled by personal growth, meaningful goals, and purpose? Or is it fueled by comparison, ego, or a fear of failure? The original Mamba mentality is about self-competition, not external validation. By clearly defining your purpose, you set the foundation for sustainable growth, and you avoid the trap of burning out chasing someone else's version of success. Another key principle is structuring your effort intelligently. Kobe's early obsession often meant hours of training without as much consideration for long-term health. Over time, he learned to incorporate deliberate recovery into his routine: stretching, pliability work, proper nutrition, and rest. For you, this means designing your own training, work, or personal development schedule so that progress is consistent and sustainable. It's not about working endlessly, it's about optimizing your effort to maximize results. Recovery isn't a weakness, it's part of the process. Mental resilience is also essential. The Mamba mentality teaches that setbacks and failures are opportunities to learn, not signals to quit. Kobe constantly used adversity to fuel improvement, whether it was bouncing back from a tough loss, overcoming injury, or facing criticism. In everyday life, this translates to reframing challenges as stepping stones rather than obstacles. When you adopt this mindset, you stop fearing failure and start using it as data to adjust your approach, improve your skills, and strengthen your mental toughness. Discipline must be paired with flexibility. The dark side of obsession comes from rigidity, the idea that you must push forward at any cost. Applying the Mamba mentality correctly requires knowing when to push and when to pull back. Kobe's later career showed this balance. He didn't abandon intensity, but he learned to respect his body and mind, incorporating rest, focus sessions, and purposeful practice instead of endless repetition. In your life, this might mean taking a step back when progress stalls, seeking mentorship or guidance, or reassessing your methods to ensure you're moving forward without unnecessary damage. Consistency is another cornerstone. The Mamba mentality isn't a short-term sprint, it's a long-term lifestyle. Incremental improvements compound over time. Small daily actions, repeated consistently, lead to mastery and results far beyond what sporadic bursts of effort can achieve. This principle applies universally. Athletes who succeed long-term, like Serena Williams or Tom Brady, didn't just grind for a few weeks, they sustained their commitment over decades. Artists, entrepreneurs, and professionals who apply the mentality do the same in their fields, combining persistent effort with intelligent strategy. Finally, embrace curiosity and learning as part of the mentality. Kobe was not just physically obsessed, he was a student of the game. He studied film, dissected opponents' tendencies, and even explored disciplines outside basketball, such as soccer footwork and martial arts principles. Applying the Mamba mentality today means cultivating a mindset of constant learning. Ask questions, seek feedback, and always look for ways to refine your craft. This prevents stagnation and ensures your drive remains productive rather than destructive. When applied correctly, the Mamba mentality can elevate your performance, sharpen your focus, and strengthen your character. It can help you dominate on the court, excel in your career, or achieve personal milestones, all without sacrificing your health, relationships, or sense of purpose. But if misapplied, if pursued with obsession alone, it will take more from you than it gives. Balance is the bridge between greatness and destruction, and understanding this distinction is the key to unlocking the real power behind Kobe's philosophy. Now, let's take all of this and put it into action. Here's a sample workout, one that challenges your body and your mind, but also emphasizes recovery and sustainability. The dark truth about the Mamba mentality is that it's not just about working harder, it's about sacrificing, suffering, and obsessing in ways most people don't see. But if you apply it with balance, it can be the key to unlocking your full potential, not just in basketball, but in life. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think the Mamba mentality is worth the sacrifices it demands? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this video valuable, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you never miss another breakdown. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.